Well, welcome everyone to what I think you're going to find an exciting and intriguing, challenging panel. And we have for this panel four futurists, technology gurus. These are the people that end users and everyone across the industry turns to ask the question, where do you think we're going? What's next? What do you recommend? Where do you see trends going? And you'll be familiar with many of these people because they're well known across the industry. I'm thrilled to welcome Ruben Sprite, Al Solorzano, Esther Bartel, and Pete Downing. Welcome all of you. Thank you for joining us. And let's get right into this. What's the last year? First question is, what's the last year been like for all of you? When we last met face to face at the beginning of 2020, no one saw working from home or working from anywhere about to happen almost instantly. So what have your lives been like in the last year?
I will call it craptastic. Great and crap combined. That would be my sort of summary.
Good word. Good word. So what is that? What's been the good about it? And what's been the crap about it?
Yeah, I would say I count my blessings every day. And there are many blessings, including working in IT and especially end user computing. So you could also say when you're grateful, it's tough to be or to stay grumpy. So I'm grateful for technology. So my kids can work from home, can study abroad. A body of mine can work from home while engineering engines, as an example. It also work from home means that I'm healthy. I do have a job and I have a home, so that's also great. But on the other side, I do have my moments where I feel grumpy, or from a mental health perspective, it's not always easy. It's tough. So working full time from home is 180 degrees transformation for myself. Like a year ago or a year and a half ago, it was 50% travel, 50% work from home, and now it's full time, 100% work from home. So it has its impact mentally, energy level up and down. So, and that's fine. It's a friend of mine once said, it's okay to be not okay. So connect with peers, connect with friends, talk about the struggles. I have my struggles, and pretty sure most of others will have their own personal struggles as well. So I believe we come stronger out of what we are facing right now. More self-aware what's happening, what is important and what is not important from a both personal and business perspective. So
great,
longer story, but that would be my sort of
craptastic. There you go. It's been craptastic, exactly. 12 months. How about you, Esther?
So for me, working from home was like a blessing. So I was really excited at first because it meant I didn't get distracted by colleagues, and I could just focus on the work that had to be done. But I have to admit that if I look at the team dynamics, it definitely changed. So I did see a big shift, and maybe that's more a Netherlands or a Dutch thing, but I saw this big shift from managing by presence to managing by result, which definitely meant that we all had to change our behavior and our team dynamics. And even though I fully agree with Ruben that working from home is really fantastic, I had the personal experience to go to a recording studio last December. And I didn't even fully realize it at the moment, but when I got home, I was so hyped still from being live in contact with people and seeing them smile and making jokes, that really hit me in how much impact working from home has on your social interactions with colleagues, friends, family even. So yeah, it definitely means that we have to take both mental health and the technical fun into account.
Wow, that's the experience that we're all longing for, which is just to be back in a room with some people, even if you can't touch them. Okay, who wants to go next? Al, what's your
I'll take that. I think one thing that we saw following craptastic, the good and the bad, right, is organizationally, like Esther was mentioning, a lot of our customers are having to transition from managing by physical presence to managing by what their job, what their actual job is and their productivity. So that's been very good because that's allowed a lot of organizations to hire outside of their region. No longer did you have to hire in just a specific place where your headquarters happen to be, which has been amazing. On the downside is culture. How do you maintain culture? It's very difficult. I now have people reporting to me that are no longer in my state. Some of them are not even in the country. Some of them are driving around in RVs across the entire United States, still able to do their job, but I can't physically meet with them anymore. So, trying to do that over a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting has been very difficult. So culture's been tough.
Well, we'll dig more into culture in a minute because that's been one of the big conversations in the last year. Pete, why don't you just chime in before we move on to that?
Sure. Yeah. So, I think the other upside of this is, me personally, I haven't been on a plane for over a year. I went from being on a plane weekly to not traveling for over a year. And I'll say that's the upside from not only a personal perspective, but a business perspective. Businesses have realized they don't need to spend all this money on T&E. And it's freed me up personally to be able to do other things like have more family time, coach softball, things like that. But the good side of, Al's comments is the word is trust. I think companies are learning to trust their employees more when they're at home. And on the flip side, yeah, it's a culture shift, but it also is good for culture because it allows employees to work from anywhere, work shift, etc. So I think this whole work from home, work from anywhere mentality is a good thing. And it's made a lot of companies realize, hey, it does work.
Two huge words there, and both what some C-level executives would consider to be soft words, and I don't. And the two words are culture and trust. And you can't have a robust culture without trust. And trust, some will argue trust has to be earned, but I would argue that if you have a workplace where people have to continually do things to earn the trust, I'm not sure that, especially in a virtual world, it's going to be successful. So this is how do you create cultures over tools like Teams? Well said. What's your feeling on that? What's the role of technology now in creating the soft side of organizations, which is the strength of their cultures ultimately, and the trust they have with their people and their customers?
So
Esther, do you want to jump on that, or Al, you go?
I'll take the first one. I'll take a stab. So yeah, I think organizations need to be an aggregator of services, not just of IT services, but also the culture services, right? The health, the mental care of their employees. They need to start bringing that into all aspects of the organization and kind of bringing that to one view for the consumer. In this case, the consumer is the user, their employee. Without that, you're going to have a lot of individuals. You're going to have a lot of things just kind of going off. I put my documents here. I put my documents there. We can't have that. We got to have that cohesive message. And like you said, to build that culture, the trust of those employees is important. And I think that dashboard concept, that workspace concept is going to be the first step.
And that's not easy for all IT professionals to wrap their heads around, with all respect. And Esther, you were pretty outspoken about this when we talked before, that there's a comfort zone with some IT professionals of being able to, you hide in the room and you put the solution out and you close the door again. No longer, right?
Yeah, well, that's basically what, or at least how I explain it. That in the past, we as the IT people, we used to be in the basement and were able to hide and not interact with our end users. But I think the real cultural shock for us as IT is that we are now the end users. So all of a sudden we have to use all the applications and solutions that we built ourselves. So now we are basically confronted with the fact that it doesn't all work as wonderful and integrated as we visioned it to be, to put it very politely.
There's more crap than there is tastic.
Definitely. And so that's what we're experiencing now, that it's not always clear, even for us as end users, what applications to start on our local devices, what can and can we not start in the virtual desktop, and how do we make sure that we keep switching and make sure that the data is still interchangeable. So yeah, a lot of challenges.
Yeah, the role of IT's changed, and we talked about that with some customers, just how they've been brought to the table and looked at very differently. But the other thing that Pete, you talked about is happening is that IT is now at the table with functions like HR in a way that they may not have before. And because back to where the question started, how do you use teams to create something like culture? Well, HR has got a huge role in that. So you have some insights into that, Pete, or in some experience.
Yeah, and you know, my background came from the product management routes, and you know, there's a big theme there of design thinking, right? And I really feel that our job as IT professionals is to enable our users to be successful, and part of that is, you know, sitting with HR and understanding not only the processes but tying IT into those processes, and part of that's going to be maintaining, you know, the users, you know, home, you know, and work life mentality, but also giving them the flexibility that they need with proper tools and dashboards, as Al said. So I think that flexibility is what is the theme around the technology. The technology needs to be flexible so they can work from anywhere and enable that trust factor and give good cultural experience.
So you use the word dashboard, and that's an interesting concept. And I'm going to ask you two questions around kind of the shift in software. The idea around dashboard, Ruben, that you brought up in our earlier conversation was, well, Salesforce bought Slack. And that points to an interesting integration of what's traditionally been the outward view to the customer and the inward view to the people inside the organization. And is that something that you see happening? And what is that? How does that fit in the concept of dashboard?
Yeah, it's all about like getting access to data through apps and dashboard. Sometimes it's called portal, but that's like back to the 2000s, right? That's still like relevant today. But I also believe like there's a reason why Salesforce bought Slack. There's a reason why Citrix acquired Rike. Like the reason is that you want to create like an integrated employee and customer experience into an interface. That can be like a single interface. Maybe Slack is the modern interface, or maybe Teams is the modern interface, or Liquid or Workspace 365 or Citrix or VMware or all above. So I think it's key to focus on the app part and integrate apps, mobile, SaaS, and Windows into the interface the customer needs to get work done. And that can be a single interface, but it can also be multiple interfaces depending on what the customer requires. So I don't believe per se as a single interface as like the holy grail. For me, it's about interfaces. It can be like a Google shelf or the Mac start menu or the Linux menu. Whatever the interface is to get work done, I don't care. But the delivery of apps should be flexible enough to support that type of that type of working mode.
And that a user, wherever they are, should have one place that they can go and get to all the key functions that they need to get to,
exactly,
rather than rummaging around on their machine or on a server somewhere.
Exactly.
So what's that doing to the evolution of software? What type of software is being built and how it's being sold and bought? And who wants to, Al, do you want to start that one?
There's a couple things. You definitely have the transition to subscription. That's definitely a big one. You know, that's forcing a lot of our customers to kind of evaluate their CapEx, OpEx models. And not every organization's ready for that. So that's a big deal. I think the other one I'll throw out there too is integration, right? No longer is it typically just a next, and done, and we move on to the next application. There's a lot of integration. There's a lot of understanding, like Pete was mentioning, about understanding the workflows within that organization. So there's just some pretty big transitions for organizations.
Those are big, and there are some implications around what kind of software is going to work, because you can't put complex pieces of software in front of people if they're working at home at the kitchen table with 3 screaming kids running around and a dog going to the bathroom on the floor, and send them an email saying, oh, by the way, you'll figure it out, don't worry. So that brings up issues to me around simplicity. Number one, it literally has to be easy to use. And then there's some tricks to that. Pete or Esther, do you want to jump on sort of ease of use and and what the challenges but opportunities also are around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think from an IT perspective, and Esther, maybe I'll let you comment on the IT side. I'll comment on the user side. The user side, I mean, let's face it, we have to make it so the users can get to what they need to and just keep it simple, right? And so that's the greatness about IGEL working with all their great partners in the ecosystem is they simplify getting access to Amazon Workspaces, Citrix, VMware, et cetera. So simplicity for the user is key. But on the flip side, Esther, IT needs to be simple too, right?
Definitely. And well, especially we need to make it simple for our end users. For instance, we need to stop telling them that, for instance, the WebEx sessions have to be on their local machines, where the work and sharing screens has to be done in their virtual desktop, because that's confusing, even for me, which screen and what are the do's and the don'ts, even from a security perspective. So what I'm seeing from IT is that we need to be more flexible, and we need to be able to more in an automated way make improvements and changes to the entire infrastructure stack. And that's definitely a new challenge for some of us.
Absolutely. I would think, and I think I said to one of you or all of you before, even at Microsoft, if you're a Microsoft employee at one of the buildings in Redmond at head office, the main campus, if you got a problem with your Surface, you just go downstairs and there's a counter with half a dozen people behind it, and you give them your Surface and they fix it for you and off you go. And that's not true today. And I don't see that happening again anytime in the near future. So it's obviously also in IT's best interest to create solutions that are as simple and as robust as possible. But it doesn't matter if they're bulletproof if no one can use them.
What I always find interesting that every vendor, I would say, will say something like, "Hey, we're best to use, we're simple, we're easy to consume." No one will say we have a shitty, complex solution, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I would challenge also, like the audience right now, to challenge your partner, your vendor, if their solution is really simple to consume. And if not, well, there are the beauty of services is that it's easy to start small and move fast. So yeah, challenge us, challenge vendors in general, and see if the solution is really simple to use and simple to consume.
You brought up, I think, Esther, you mentioned it first, security. And it's a conversation that everyone's having right now. Work from anywhere is a great concept, and it brings some huge security challenges. So just address those, if you will, because I know it's a subject that's on all of our attendees' minds.
Correct. So I think if we look at traditional security questions that we had or challenges, it was mostly focused on the external facing entry points, so to speak, of the network. So we were still very focused on making sure that the gateway was secure. Where I think nowadays, especially if we're talking about as a service approach, and the fact that data is becoming more and more our currency, and more important, we need to make sure that we shift that security focus from the edge to the data itself, and realizing that applications are basically a presentation layer for the data, and the vehicle that allows us to manipulate or to add data to our systems. And once we fully understand that, even from an IT perspective, I think we will be easily adapting the modern ways of data management, like DevOps, to make sure that we automate our deployments and our changes, and that we have security by design implemented in each and every step of the process. But yeah, that's once again does mean that we need to make a cultural difference.
Okay, Ruben.
Yeah.
We've done security and user experience pretty well, I think. I know you got one other thing on your mind.
Yeah, exactly. The other one is from cloud first to cloud smart. Like public cloud disrupts the norm, no doubt about it. Like without cloud, we couldn't work from home like we do right now, right? But there are also real attention points and challenges in public cloud, like performance or cost or their locality or guaranteed capacity. So for me, like the future is cloud smart instead of cloud first. Instead of lemmings like walking everyone in the same direction to cloud first, cloud smart makes much more sense. Using the right tools, the right people with the right knowledge and skills to get work done, both in public cloud and on-prem. And I think the beauty from an IGEL perspective is that like these application and desktop delivery solutions, these virtual app and desktop solutions, like Amazon or WVD or Citrix, VMware, and Nutanix, like that, this whole spectrum is like cloud smart, run in public cloud or on-prem. And IGEL makes it possible to connect whatever makes sense from that perspective, right? So if you have that approach, like, hey, it makes sense to run my apps on-prem, there are plenty of solutions in that space to support that. And if you have an approach of, I want to run my apps close to where my data is in public cloud, great story as well. And if you have both, there are vendors in that space who can support that hybrid type of scenario. And that choice is what I like and what a lot of customers like as well. Hence, Cloud Smart.
Cloud Smart, fantastic. Well, I'm going to ask you for a quick one sentence comment on this idea. No one saw the last 12 months coming, but it's been a rocket ride. And if there's one good place to be in the world of technology, I would argue that right where this whole conference and IGEL is right now is exactly where you want to be. So I'll lead off. My comment is buckle up, because it isn't going to slow down. It's just going to get faster and faster. How about any of you? Last words.
So I'll start. So my last words would be more community focused, to embrace the power of community. And as the theme of this event also explains, so use that unite feeling to make sure that we can, as a community, face the challenges that working from home gives us, both from a technical perspective, but also definitely from a mental perspective.
Beautiful. Thank you, Esther. Who else? Ruben, you kind of did it. Pete, got a final thought for everybody?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to be in end user compute because one, they keep saying it's the year of EUC, and I think, yeah, we're past that, but it's amazing how many enterprises realized what they didn't have by shifting to this work remote mentality. So there's a lot of technology and innovation that's going to happen in IT. So I really believe that, yeah, it's a great time, and IGEL is going to enable that through enabling endpoints and enabling how you manage and changing the paradigm and how you manage endpoints. And then more importantly, don't forget to unmute yourself.
Good one, Pete. Al, how about you?
The last piece I'll throw in there too is like, look, COVID-19 has forced a lot of organizations to really look at how their employees act, productivity. I mean, if you want to joke around the year of VDI, like it was basically the year of COVID forcing VDI, right? For a lot of organizations and forcing EUC. And no offense to Pete Downing's office, like, look, I'd rather work from this office than I'd rather work from his office. So work from anywhere, everybody.
Great, thank you. Okay, Ruben, we're out of time. Do you have any, you got a top craptastic, or should we just go out with that as yours? It's going to be craptastic. There's going to be some more ugly stuff, but the good stuff's going to be great.
Exactly.
You made a word for us.
Yeah, good stuff.
Well, thank you all. We really appreciate your time, Al, Esther, Pete, and Ruben. We appreciate your insights, and thanks for being great supporters of IGEL. And we'll see you at the next Disrupt, and be safe, be healthy, be well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.